The story that happened to me unfolded on Lake Ayan, located in the heart of Siberia on the Putorana Plateau. This unique place is the territory of the Putorana Nature Reserve, where I have been working as an inspector and scientific researcher for many years. The Putorana Plateau became my childhood dream, and I've dedicated my entire professional life to this fantastic corner of nature. For over 25 years, I have been studying the nature of the plateau, witnessing and participating in many amazing events. I've had to deal with incredible situations: a bear attack, drowning in a river, falling from cliffs, escaping rock falls, and even experiencing hunger in the taiga. The specifics of my job require me to live for extended periods amidst the wilderness, which is not only challenging, but also dangerous. Here, surrounded by hundreds of kilometers of solitude, I am alone, and in case of an emergency, reaching help is not a quick option. Therefore, I always rely on myself, my strength, experience, and intuition. However, this time, when I had to make a prompt decision, I felt doubt and didn't know which choice to make: extend a helping hand or turn away. In the end, I acted as a sensible person and came to the aid of those in distress. But unfortunately, nature follows its laws, and regardless of my efforts, it delivered its harsh verdict, guided only by its own rules. This story began in late April when winter still rages on the Putorana Plateau. We arrived just yesterday, managing to break through a weather window. I haven't been here for 6 months. Being away, I remembered this tiny house every day, eagerly counting the days until this moment, the moment when I would return to my outpost and engage in my beloved work. Today is April 24th. We're at the Ayan outpost, and the first thing to do is to clear the roof of the house from snow. Otherwise, the weight of the snow will cause the house to sag, doors will open poorly, and the roof will leak. This year, we've had a lot of snow. It's the first time I've seen so much snow here at Ayan. This year, we had a snowy winter. By evening, the blizzard subsided. Everything changes rapidly here on the plateau. Clear weather can come in an instant after a storm, accompanied by a strong frost. It's already evening. Here's the result of our work. We cleared a path to walk on and cleared a space for chopping firewood. We cleared the snow until late in the evening. A whole tunnel was formed in the snow. By evening, the weather had changed. The blizzard had subsided, and the sun came out. Everything around turned white. Life began on a blank white sheet. Beauty. Hot, Misha? Yes. Is there such a job in Moscow? It depends on where and how. These are the everyday work days at the outpost. You have to work constantly here. This year, my partner will be my eldest son. How he, deciding to leave the city, the internet, and Coca-Cola for half a year, I don't know. We'll see how his venture ends. And now, together with me, he actively battles a snowstorm. Take a shovel and clear the snow from the side of the house. Why are there nails hammered into the wall? I hammered these nails to protect the house from bears. In spring, if we arrive late, a bear might come to the house and start rubbing its back against the corner. It likes to scratch its back against sharp corners and trees. The nails are sharp, and it won't rub against the house. See, out of anger, it broke the corner of the roof. If there were no nails, it could have broken the house and gotten inside. It's a simple protection against bears.
Он не будет тереться, пойдет дальше. Поэтому это как бы защита от медведя.
Upon arrival, we have plenty of household work to do for improvement. It's impossible to finish everything in one day. We need about 3 days to fully organize our life and settle in. The sun is setting. The frost quickly attacks the valley. While it's still bright outside, we need to bring water, carry firewood into the house, start the generator, and only then can we take refuge in the warm house. In the evenings, I like to walk to the river for water and enjoy the winter silence and sunset. The river water is cold and delicious, and you can drink it right from the river. Fetching water, I stay at the river bank, observing how the sun slowly disappears behind the horizon in silence, and the mountains are painted in an insanely fantastic color. This silence, these mountains, this river, it's all for me. And we are alone for hundreds of kilometers around. No sounds except the sleepy murmur of the river and the muffled crackling of the ice. Incredible. For the third day since we arrived from the forest, a strange sound echoed constantly. I've never heard such a sound in the forest before. Clearly, it's someone's voice, and its owner is hiding somewhere near us. Who is he, and why is he shouting? A light breeze stirred something at the top of a broken tree trunk. I took a closer look. It couldn't be. A part of an owl's head was sticking out of the hollow, and its feathers fluttered in the wind. It was the same color as the tree. So that's who's making the noise. It's a hawk owl. It seems she has a nest in this tree. Isn't it too early? After all, it's still cold outside. What luck. An owl near the house. We'll take photos and observe. The next day we noticed the male owl. He would occasionally fly to the house, perch on the top of a larch and observe us. So we met our neighbors. Now we'll wait for the chicks to appear. In June, spring fully takes hold of the mountains. Streams murmur everywhere, and the melodious voices of birds are heard. The forest quickly starts turning green. Approaching the owl's tree became easy. The snow in the valley had completely melted. The owl sits in the nest and only peeks out, never forgetting to cry out. Other birds have paired up and are also hatching their offspring. The deer continue migrating to the north. Now only males are moving. In mid-June, visible changes occurred not only in the forest, but also with the owl. She had offspring now. The owl continuously called the male, who regularly brought food. He always looked at me threateningly. "What are you doing here?" And there's this little bird, which keeps spinning around the owl's nest and constantly chirps, chirp, chirp. It annoyed both us and the owl with its monotonous singing. The owl calmly responded to this bird, paying no attention. But we got tired of listening to it, and I was about to cut down the tree with the nest and move it further away from the house. Summer quickly seized the valley. All owl chicks hatched. Heat descended on Putorana. In the heat, everything seems to freeze. The male fell asleep, and the owl fell asleep. What else to do when unbearable heat surrounds you? The heat has been going on for a second week. The best way to cool down is to make bread kvass. We make kvass ourselves. I take black bread, pour water over it, add sugar to taste, Put in yeast, mix well, and leave it in a warm place. In 3-4 days, the kvass is ready. We pour it into bottles and put it in the cold river.
И ставим в теплое место. Через дня 3 квас готов. Сколько? Ну вот 26 градусов в тени. Вот жара стоит.
Heat here in the north can quickly turn into rain and coolness. In such weather, you don't want to go anywhere. You just have to look out the window and admire the misty landscape. The owl covered the chicks and there is no movement. Rain is necessary for the taiga. Otherwise, everything will perish from drought and fires could start.
Сова бедняга накрыла птенцов и сидит, не движется. Дождь нужен тайге, иначе все погибнет. Пожары будут.
In June, there is still ice on the lake, although the forest is already green. On the lake, you can observe mystical hallucinations. Warm air driven by the wind moves over the ice, creating fantastic mirages.
Движется над льдом, и возникают миражи.
The owl started leaving the nest and sitting on a nearby tree. She periodically calls the male. During this time, the owl doesn't hunt but waits for the male to bring food for her and the chicks. 3 chicks have already appeared in the nest. They are fluffy, and interestingly, they don't have yellow beaks as is common for chicks of other birds. It's intriguing to wonder if she will have more chicks. A few days later, the first chick left the nest and sat on a neighboring tree. It looked at us in amazement. The male doesn't like our presence near the nest. He scolds but doesn't attack us. It seems he's also gotten used to us. When the chicks are small, the mother doesn't fly far from the nest. She sits nearby and watches over them. If left unattended, a predator could come and eat the chicks, so the male brings them food. Lemmings, mice, birds, and the owl feeds the chicks and eats the leftovers. The female doesn't allow the male to feed the chicks, and he probably doesn't know how to do it. The second chick has already flown out of the nest and is sitting on a branch. It chirps and waits for someone to bring it food. The chicks gradually leave the nest and perch on different trees. There's not much space in the nest. It seems there are still smaller chicks in there, but we can't see them yet. I'm going to try to approach the chick and touch it. I wonder how it will react. Will it bite me? It seems the chick doesn't care. Right now, I'm doing a commissioned photo session. A guest arrived and asked for a few shots. I couldn't refuse him. That's how we have to work in challenging conditions. The chick is just posing and doesn't pay attention to mosquitoes. It's raining. All the chicks have left the nest and scattered through the forest. These 2 are the smallest owlets, hatched last. They wait to be fed. The owl is upset that I approached the chicks, but she doesn't attack. The little ones can't climb the tree yet. It's dangerous for them to sit on the ground. They are so cute and helpless. Their eyes are open, and they look at me. Despite the rain, mosquitoes don't stop biting the chicks, and the bird, A Tyrannosaurus, peep, peep, constantly chirping and spinning around, truly relentless. The chicks gradually move away from the nest, farther and farther, venturing into the woods. They perch on branches and chirp. The parents easily find them in the forest by their chirping. Rain is not the best time, although for the chicks it doesn't matter. The main thing is to be fed. Water rolls off them, and they remain dry. The smallest chicks still can't fly and climb high into the tree. Sitting on the ground is dangerous for their lives. They hide under trees or in bushes. On June 28th, we were returning from the forest to our home. Near the owl's nest on the trail, we found the feathers of a torn-apart owl. Initially, we thought someone had eaten a chick. Maybe some falcon caught a chick and the mother didn't see it. It doesn't look like chick feathers. These are large feathers like those of an adult bird. This is definitely not a chick. It seems one of the parents died. Who could it be?
Папашку съели.
Мамашу съели. Птенца нет таких перьев.
We went to the tree with the nest. Nearby, perched on branches, were 5 chicks who were continuously crying. Great, the chicks are all alive. On top of a dry tree, the owl sat, turning her head. Did the father really die? Or maybe these are feathers from another owl.
Мать сидит на дереве, но мелочь кричит, есть просит, и никто им помочь не может.
The next morning, we went to the owlets in the forest. Look, here on the ground, there's a chick. It's not moving. It seems dead. This is the smallest chick. This is the first victim of hunger. Is this the fate awaiting all the chicks? We haven't seen the owls anywhere. The chicks cried incessantly. They were hungry. Our fears were confirmed. The feathers on the trail belong to the male. What will happen to the family now? Can they survive? The owl alone cannot feed her offspring. This is a real tragedy. What should we do? We shouldn't interfere with nature. However, we decide to help the chicks. The absence of the mother worries us. Did she abandon them? We opened a can of stewed chicken and decided to feed the chicks with it. They were grateful for our help and eagerly ate the stew. Perhaps it will help them survive, but if the mother doesn't return, we won't be able to raise them for life in the wild. All the chicks ate with great appetite. They were very hungry. We don't know if what we're doing is right by feeding them. The laws of nature are harsh. The strongest survive. Human intervention in nature doesn't always bring benefits. But this time, we couldn't do otherwise. We felt sorry for the chicks, and we didn't abandon them. Thus, we became the parents of the owlets.
Редкие птицы. Первый раз у нас здесь заселились, и потерять их жалко. Но только как их учить дальше? Сами они, наверное, не научатся ловить мышей, а может научатся, неизвестно. Мы будем следить до вечера.
The next day, we found our charges almost in the same place. They are all alive and healthy. They greeted us with joyful cries. This time we brought them beef stew. This is the owl's favorite tree, but there was no one on it, and we didn't hear the mother's voice. Our concerns grew. Did the owl really leave the chicks? They are hungry and friendly. The chicks happily eat. They like boiled meat so much that they even grab for fingers.
Невзирая на это, мы открыли другую банку тушенки, теперь говяжью, и подкармливаем.
Да, иди.
Они с удовольствием едят.
Где у нас второй?
Не отказываются.
Вот он у нас тут под пеньком сидит.
Вот, все сидят практически на том же самом месте, где мы их вчера оставили. И, кажется, ждут нас. Такие голодные. Аж за палец хватает.
For lunch, we decide to diversify the chicks' diet. Human food is probably not good for them. We need to feed them what their parents feed them, fresh meat. We're not as agile as owls and can't catch mice and birds. Let's try feeding the chicks fresh fish this time, even though these birds don't catch fish. I caught a grayling, and now I'll cut it into pieces and we'll go feed the chicks. Let's see if they'll eat such food.
Но тем не менее, все время кормить их тушенкой, наверное, не так хорошо.
Let's start with this one sitting on the ground.
Сидит здесь на траве.
Come on, have a bite. Oops, the chick fainted from such food. It screams and protests, but keeps eating. Didn't it recognize us? Is it scared? The chicks liked the fish. Well, that's good. Fresh vitamins, they gobble it up with great appetite. They even eat the intestines. So it seems we can feed the chicks with fish.
Теперь нормально.
Упал.
Опять упал.
Рыбка понравилась им.
Он уже сам хватает.
Уплетают за милую душу.
That's enough. Don't feed them more. We don't want them to overeat.
Все, этого больше не кормим.
Come on, eat. For mom, for dad.
За папу.
It seems a bit sad and sluggish, but still, it ate a piece of fish. We decide to radically solve the problem of feeding the chicks. Stewed meat and fish are good, but it's better to give them their usual food. We can't catch birds, but we can easily get mice and lemmings. Let's resort to cunning. This is a simple plastic bottle from water. We'll use it as a mousetrap. Cut the bottle in half, pour bait inside, sunflower seeds, and close the bottle. From the side of the neck, install several needles pointing inside the bottle. The mouse can easily get inside, but it won't be able to crawl out backward. The needles won't allow it. The next day, we caught several mice and went to feed our feathered children. The chicks moved to another place and sat quite still. It seems they weren't very happy with our mice. What's wrong? Are they sick? Or is it too hot for the chicks? Or mosquitoes are bothering them? Mosquitoes attacked us with incredible force. Early July is the peak mosquito season in the taiga. The chicks are already climbing high, and it's becoming difficult to feed them. One of them sits almost at the top of a larch. It seems he'll stay hungry. We can't reach him. We offered whole mouse carcasses to the chicks, but they couldn't swallow them yet. We need to cut the carcasses into small pieces. The little pieces pleased the chicks, and they ate them.
Более старшие перелетели немножко дальше на большие деревья, а мелкие заняли то место, которое вчера занимали старшие. Сегодня они не так сильно орут, даже, я бы сказал, вообще не орут. Сытые видно. Вот мы принесли мышь, но велика слишком пища, он взять ее не может, хочет взять, но не может. Придется ее сейчас разорвать и дать ему покушать. Но так, судя по всему, птенцы сытые и уже не беспокоятся. Значит, вчерашняя подкормка помогла им. Но сегодня мы увидели следующее, что сова жива.
Today an incredible and joyful event happened. It turns out the mother didn't abandon the chicks, she continues to feed them. The oldest chick, who sat high on the tree, held a mouse carcass in its claws. Who but an owl could bring him this prey? The chick still can't catch mice. We'll keep observing the chicks. Maybe our help is no longer needed. After this incident, ornithologists should amend the fundamental law of nature. Survival depends not on the strongest, but on those unafraid to eat canned food from human hands. Let's see if this law works here, on the Putorana Plateau. We were delighted by the arrival of the owl, and the fact that our chicks are well fed and healthy, and that we were able to support them in a difficult moment.
После своего самого меньшего брата на гибель.
Tonight, there was heavy rain, and we quickly found the chicks. They were practically in the same place. 3 chicks were sitting on a tree while the smallest one was hiding under a tree and seems to be feeling not entirely well, although it eats actively. This time, there were no mice in the trap, so we fed the chicks with canned food.
Все в одном месте. Все живы, все перенесли ненастье. Немножко мы их подкормим и пойдем. Он больше всех сытый. Опа. Все, мы наше хозяйство.
We fed all the chicks, but the oldest one refused to eat altogether. Most likely, it was recently fed by the mother. However, its sibling devoured almost half a can of canned food. We'll leave them until tomorrow.
Мелкие тоже немножко покушали, достаточно хорошо. Ну все, теперь до завтра. Классно повернулся. Уже
9 p.m. It's getting colder outside. We were returning home from fishing and checked on our wards. Throughout the day, they moved about 60 meters to another, more open place. They are all sitting together. The eldest climbed to the top of the tree while the younger ones were on a branch below. We gave the chicks a few pieces of char and left them until tomorrow. We were concerned about the condition of the youngest chick. It seemed somewhat sad as it sat there.
Будем завтра наблюдать дальше, что с ними будет. А сегодня мы им на вечер хариуса привезли, кишки хариуса. Вот. Оставляем, посмотрим, выживет ли. Ну мелкий что-то мне не нравится, какой-то он печальный. Это большой, это последний.
I see only 3 chicks. Where is the 4th, the smallest one? Here it is. It seems to be lifeless. On July 3rd, we came to check on our owlets and were deeply saddened. They were sitting in the same place where we left them. The night was cold and windy. The youngest chick didn't make it. It seems our supplementary feeding didn't work. Or maybe it was harmful to them. Perhaps there's another reason for the death of the tiniest one. It's all part of the same law of nature. The other 3 chicks are alive and seem to be doing well.
Живы и, по всей видимости, чувствуют себя хорошо. Но этот мелкий, самый, который был, он по внешнему виду не очень был здоров. И поэтому, возможно, он и погиб. Что-то не то. Дело не в еде.
As we were about to leave, the mother arrived. She perched on a nearby tree. The chicks immediately called out. She turned her head in different directions. The eldest one flew down from the tree and the owl promptly approached. She fed the first one a bit, then flew to the next, delivering the remaining prey. What a joy we experienced. The owl is feeding the chicks. Of course, it's challenging for her to feed all 3 chicks alone. We suspect she intentionally didn't feed the youngest chick, deciding to nurture the strongest ones. We hope these 3 chicks will survive.
Стала кормить другой подлетел к ним, она ему тоже перенесла. Ну, короче, с одной точки я пытался с камерой бегать, а здесь в лесу поймать нужный ракурс очень тяжело. В общем-то, вон она сидит, покормила. Ну все, значит, все в порядке. Их кормят. Эти трое птенцов, надеемся, останутся живы. Будем еще сейчас наблюдать за ними, ну и впоследствии.
It's now the time when the owlets have grown and they are well fed and content. One of them holds a mouse in its talons but isn't eating it yet, saving it for later.
Уже сытые, довольные. Самка принесла ему мышь, а он ее взял в лапы и не собирается есть. Сидит, смотрит, повернулся на меня, смотрит.
On July 4th, we came to visit the chicks. They are all alive and healthy. The mother is nearby, keeping an eye on them. All the chicks have been in the same spot for 3 days now. The owl deliberately chose this spacious area of the forest. Here, the larch trees aren't as dense, providing an open area with good visibility. It's easy to monitor the situation.
Находится третий день. Сова, наверное, не зря выбрала этот такой просторный, открытый участок леса, чтобы было видно ей птенцов, ситуацию, которая вокруг них развивается.
One of the chicks has dozed off. It looks like it might fall over.
На ветке скоро упадет. Так что наблюдаем дальше.
We observe the owl as she hunts. There she is, perched on a branch. She has become accustomed to our constant presence and pays no attention to us. Interestingly, she doesn't fly away for long periods, staying close to the chicks. This clearing is where she hunts. If you stay quiet, you can see mice darting from one piece of dead wood to another. This is an optimal place to feed, observe, and protect the chicks.
Все время рядом. И здесь же, на этой поляне, охотится. Мышки бегают, видно, вот так если сесть, тихо сидеть, то можно увидеть где-нибудь пробегающую даже мышку из-под коряги к коряге. Вот поэтому здесь, видать, оптимальное место, чтобы и охотиться, и кормить птенцов, и охранять их, наблюдать за ними, чтобы были всегда под присмотром. Ну и как всегда,
Wherever the owl family moves, they are easily located by the persistent calls of the same birds, the tyrannosaurs. They constantly swirl around the owl, chirping incessantly. Peek, peek, peek. They incessantly harass the owl. I would grant the owl the title of Miss Tolerance. Why she doesn't catch these birds remains a mystery. To find the chicks in the forest, we listened for the squeaks of the tyrannosaur bird and followed its voice, always locating the owl family in the woods. Today is July the 6th. It's getting towards evening, and we came to see where the chicks are. Neither the owl's hoots nor the cries of the chicks are heard. In recent days, the chicks have stopped constantly screaming. They call out to their mother when she arrives and promptly give their first calls. Our children are growing up, it's quiet now, and we wait. Perhaps the chicks and the owl have flown far from this place, and we're waiting for them in vain? There they are. All three are sitting on the ground. We found them not far from their favorite spot. We approached them.
Нашли их. Они тоже на этом же месте, практически на этой же поляне. Но все втроем на земле сидят. На бревне. Пойдем сейчас к ним подойдем. Вот.
All the chicks are alive and well. As soon as we approached, two of the older chicks immediately flew to a tree. It seems they have started to fear us. The smaller one remained sitting in the same place, and as it turned out, it was a good decision.
Этот самый маленький пока еще сидит. Надулся и смотрит на нас. В общем,
We were about to leave when we heard the owl squeak, and the chicks immediately responded. However, the one on the ground was closer to the owl, and she promptly descended to him, delivering the prey. Mama brought him a bird. He couldn't swallow it. The legs were getting in the way. The one who was bold and unafraid of us received the first catch. Everything is in order. The owl is managing her maternal duties. Our mission is complete.
и принесла покушать. Но я смотрю, уже его кормят не мышами, а мамка, оказывается, и других птичек ловит. И вот он не может проглотить, а уже, наверное, проглотил. Ноги застряли в горле и никак не мог их проглотить. Ну вот кто не боится, тот и получил свою порцию. А те куда-то в лес улетели и не кричали. А этот стал кричать, мамка прямо вот ко мне села вот сюда на дерево и к нему. Это расстояние вот сколько? Ну максимум 8-10 метров. Вот, значит, все в порядке.
On July 10th, we saw the chicks and the owl for the last time. They were perched high on different trees, dozing. Only occasionally did the owl chirp and preen its feathers. How quickly the chicks grew and how swiftly they forgot about us, their surrogate father. We stood below the trees and none of them glanced at us, as if we were ordinary trees. For the next few days, we wandered through the forest, listened to the bird songs, and tried to find the owl family. But they were nowhere to be seen or heard. Surely they hid or flew farther away from our attention. After all, they no longer needed us. I wonder if they will remember us when we meet again next year. I don't know. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is that these 3 fluffy bundles survived, and there's a bit of credit due to us. It's sad to part with friends, but winter will pass, spring will come, and I will return to my beloved territory. And if, while wandering through the forest, I hear a familiar squeak, it will likely be the voice of the owlets we saved.